Welcome back to another episode of Chair Shots and Chit Chats, where we talk everything WWE. As you can see, my co-host CE is not here, but I myself am Paco. Today we're going to talk about a couple of different things, so let's get to it. Before we start, I did want to kind of do a social experiment. If you can comment down below where you fell off. I know this is an episode where it's just me, so I'm not going to have any bantering back and forth. So just put a timestamp down there where you kind of fell off or you started losing interest. Like that, it lets us know what it is that we should be talking about less of or talking about more of. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button if you like the content that you're watching. So let's dig into the video. Today we're going to be talking about 3 different topics. Individual releases, people who've been releasing WWE. The list of NXT call-ups, some of the recent call-ups that we have had and how they're refreshing the WWE. And then lastly, the main thing to talk about, Seth Rollins' new faction. Whatever you want to call it. I myself am going to call it the next generation with NXT being spelled NXT. So let's get into it. List of individuals that have been recently released by the WWE. I have a list of those individuals and why we think they were released. There was something that came out specifically talking about that. And does it make sense? Does it not make sense? Being that they are now signing new talent with AAA, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go on. First, we have Dakota Kai that was released. Braun Strowman, which that was, for some reason, the biggest surprise that we have Shayna Baszler, Kaden Carter, Katana Chance. With NXT, we have Cora Jade, Gigi Dolan, Eddie Thorpe, Jakara Jackson, Riley Osborne, Oro Mensah, Javier Bernal, Joey Coffey, Mark Coffey, Wolfgang, and Denny Palmer. So today I'm just going to be talking about some of the individuals, specifically Braun Strowman and Shayna Baszler, that were released from the WWE. If you can please help me understand why there's such shock behind Braun Strowman being released, I would love to understand that. I understand, I get it. He's a big guy, the kind of guy that Vince McMahon loved. But this is no longer the Vince generation. We are getting some of the high flyers. We're getting people that can wrestle. We're getting people that can perform. We're getting people that know how to talk in the mic. So I've been seeing a lot of ununderstanding in that decision. Braun Strowman didn't have any storyline. Braun Strowman wasn't a performer at WrestleMania. So I don't really get why there's so much shock behind letting him go. Not only that, but even when he was the top tier talent, I never really believed that he was. I don't even want to compare him to Brock Lesnar, but he was the Brock Lesnar in the way that he was a monster to beat. I'll do you one better. He was never the Brock Lesnar. He was the great Khali, but never amounted to the heights of the great Khali. Khali had his own individual match, the Punjabi cage match, I think, and they had something that revolved around the great Khali. But Braun Strowman was just a big guy. There was nothing that I could really see that set him apart other than the fact that he was tall, big, muscular. He was, I guess, a wannabe great Khali. Khali couldn't even speak, and I think he was better than Braun Strowman. So, nothing to take away from Braun Strowman. I'm not saying that he wasn't decent or he didn't do his job. I just don't see the shock in letting go of Braun Strowman. He wasn't being utilized like we talked about already. And there's so much, not just talent, but great talent in the WWE right now that if you're not willing to work for it, if you're not willing to hustle for it and have something other than the one gimmick that you have, I don't really see why they should have kept him. At the end of the day, this is a business. It's not a family. It's not a friendship group. It's a business. And the bottom line is he wasn't producing for the company. He wasn't setting himself apart. And it sounds like they didn't want to utilize him anymore because that big guy era is no longer a thing. Second person that I want to talk about is Shayna Baszler. The reason why I want to talk about her is not because she was an outstanding performer, but because I heard rumors that apparently WWE is thinking or is talking to Ronda Rousey. That being said, the easiest connection that you have to Ronda Rousey within the WWE is Shayna Baszler. You can group her with Shayna Baszler, which they've done already, or you can feud her with Shayna Baszler, or you can just have Shayna Baszler be that bridge, that storyline bridge that you can utilize to showcase Ronda Rousey. So for that reason, that doesn't make sense unless the rumors are wrong, or unless there's the conversations that have been had are just so far out that it just wasn't making financial sense to keep Shayna Baszler. Other than that, I understand. Like I'm telling you, all these conversations, all these individuals that I see, some of them were good, some of them were really good, but I don't get it. Another reason why I saw that they were letting go mostly NXT talent is that they weren't hustling. They weren't standing out. They weren't doing what it takes to showcase that you want to be here. They weren't performing like somebody who is passionate about the sport. They weren't performing like somebody who is engulfed in everything that is not just WWE, but wrestling, in the arts, in the showmanship, in the get here before everybody else and leave after everybody else is out. That Kobe Bryant mentality, that John Cena mentality, that Cody Rhodes mentality, that top talent mentality that you need to have in order to be able to stand out to people like Shawn Michaels, Triple H, and all that backstage talent that have been there for so long. So much so that I would even fair to say that the people, the individuals in LFG right now were said to have been outperforming or outwinning, out hustling. Performing maybe isn't the right word. Out hustling, outworking the individuals in NXT who already had a contract or who already had something going for them, but they got comfortable. If you're comfortable, what do you expect to happen? Do something that sets you apart. Do something that puts your name in people's mouth, whether that's you're being heel, whether that's your mic skills. Look, a lot of people gave Mike the Miz a lot of crap when he first started because he came from the real world, but he wanted it. He worked in front of the mirror to develop his mic skills. He worked in the ring to develop his in-ring skills. He had chemistry with almost everybody that he's been with. And if he's giving a gimmick, he takes it and he runs with it. Cody Rhodes, the reason why he's at the top is not because he chose to get comfortable. Cody Rhodes is at the top because even when he was playing Stardust, even when he was giving the gimmick of Stardust and was being buried in Stardust, he decided to take that and make it his own. That is what you need to do to make it in any business. And if you're not doing that, if you're not performing to your best, if you're not setting yourself apart from everybody else, mostly when you're not even like well-known talent in NXT, why should the company keep you? That brings me to our next point. Performers and individuals from NXT that are being called up or have been called up that are not just outperforming, but are being talked about on a weekly basis, not just by WWE, not just by commentators, not just by YouTubers and podcasters like us, but by casual fans. WWE NXT talent that has been called up recently that we need to give not just honorable mentions, but give their flowers. Bron Breakker being probably at the top of the list. Bron Breakker has been called up for a while now, but he needs to be giving his flowers. Carmelo Hayes, Lyra Valkyria, Roxanne Perez. I have the same last name. I don't know why I'm Roxanne Perez. That's how you say it. People who are taking my advice and outperforming and outshining everybody in there. And this is where it would be amazing to have CE here because he is one of those guys that does dive himself into wrestling, does dive himself into WWE, and he knows a lot about NXT, LFG, Raw, SmackDowns, and not just those platforms, but the ones that the history of wrestling. He is the one to give him credit that gives me the talking points for the week, and the fact that he is giving me things that he knows I'm going to be able to talk about as a casual fan is a testament to what Triple H is doing with NXT and has been doing with NXT. Has been able to develop talent in a way that once they come to the main roster, they're not stuck in the low to mid cards. They're not stuck in jobber positions trying to build a name for themselves. They're not stuck in losing roles week over week. Because once they come to the to Raw or to SmackDown, they come here ready to demolish the competition, demolish the haters, and you see this in everyone that we've talked about. If you look at the Shield, they came in from NXT, literally demolishing everything. And you have two of those individuals in the Shield with Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, who are literally at the top of their game. You could argue the same for Dean Ambrose if he wasn't at a competition. That being said, we go to Bron Breakker and the way they are building talent in NXT makes it to where it's a credible thing to when they come here to the main roster. It is you feel that they have a chance. We had Stephanie Vaquer 2 weeks ago go head to head with the women's champion, and you actually thought that she might win. You actually thought that she might win. She might hold the NXT title and the women's champion. A champion that didn't win it at the WrestleMania, but defended against two different individuals in Rhea Ripley and the EST. I forgot her name. I can't believe I forgot her name. But defended against two different people. it made you feel like it was credible for her to actually win the title. You can't see that 5, 10 years ago. That was unprecedented for somebody to come like that. Individuals like Gunther, which they pointed out yesterday, has been a champion for 80% of his time in the WWE. I don't know how to give more roses. I don't know if it's just Triple H for having the foresight to do this, or Shawn Michaels for being able to develop the talent, or the whole NXT team for being able to pull off some of the things that they've been able to pull off in the last 15 years. It is evident moving into the foresight of NXT that it is beneficial to have a developmental brand. Whether you are a company like WWE or like AEW. And you see that in AEW because they're having to pull from the indies. WWE doesn't have indies. Their indies is NXT. And although they do pull from the indies because individuals continue to get themselves over in the indie scenes, it is not a necessity for them. Because they're developing. They are recruiting from college level to get individuals who are athletes, who are performers, to be able to breed their own talent. So much so, which it might be or it might not be, you see other sports like MMA, like UFC, doing this now. They're partnering up with smaller promotions to get a pool of talent, or they're creating smaller promotions so they can get a pool of up and coming talent to be able to pick from. I don't know what else to say about this. I would love for CE to be here. Actually, if you want to tell me in the comments what you think is, if you even think it is beneficial, if you notice the benefits, or some of the things that I'm missing, because I'm sure I'm missing a lot of talking points that we could be pointing out on the benefits and on the stars that have come out of NXT. Please let me know. But let's move on to one of those NXT stars, two of those NXT stars that are now making waves in Raw and in the WWE. So now we move on to the next generation, next build NXT TM, the Paul Heyman Foundation, the individuals who are making, not making a name, but making sure that their name is a household name. Seth Rollins, Bron Breakker, and Paul Heyman. I have, if you have seen any of the previous episodes, I have a lot of opinions on this. I have a lot of opinions on who the third person is going to be. And after yesterday's Raw episode, it looks like they might have a third person coming up. I have an idea on who I think it could be. I have a prediction on who I want it to be. But before I go into that, I want to talk about some of the pros and cons into having a new faction, because this is what it is, a new faction. And one of the cons into having this new faction be so predominant in wrestling television, in WWE TV. So we'll go over the pros first. The pros is you're going to be able to develop new talent. Develop new talent in Bron Breakker, and hopefully develop new talent in whoever else becomes an individual within this faction. Who do I think is going to be in this faction? I have said from day one that I think Karrion Kross is going to be in this new faction. The main reason being is every faction, to my memory, has the big guy, the muscle, the brains, and the crazy. And I don't see anybody other to be the crazy, other than Karrion Kross. Nobody else in this roster shows me that they have that mentality at this point. A lot of people have been talking about having Austin Theory in this faction, and maybe I'm just biased, but I do not buy into the Austin Theory. I don't buy that. I don't buy that, and I don't buy him. His character, it's a knockoff John Cena. That's how I see it. And I would not be happy to see him in this new faction. He doesn't need to be in it. He would be a great heel. I'm not saying that he wouldn't be. But right now, everything they're doing with Karrion Kross and having him give reading between the lines sayings, like choose the right option, like the conversation that he's had with Sami Zayn, give me that he is choosing to go down the path of least resistance, and the path of least resistance is going and joining Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker. Now, he, to my knowledge, would be the first individual in this group that would not be a Paul Heyman guy, and there might be some clashing because he comes with his wife. That is just my opinion and some things that have been pointed out to me. But moving on, what can we do if we're developing new talent like Bron Breakker? We have to feed him individuals. If we feed him individuals, there have to be individuals who are going to give him good matches, who he's going to have to beat, who he's going to need to beat. That being said, he would need to have individuals who are coming up in the company, who can develop their skills and show that they are good individuals to be. And this will inevitably not only elevate him, but elevate that talent himself. So another pro is that you're going to be elevating the current talent that you have right now by having them go against individuals like Bron Breakker and whoever it is that they have joining this new faction. Two main cons that I see with this faction. Let's start with the main one, which is a controversial topic, so let me know what you think. The main con I see with this new faction right now is Paul Heyman. Not because he's not a good performer. We know he's a good performer. We know he's the GOAT on the mic. But there is an over-reliance in the WWE right now in Paul Heyman. There's an over-reliance in this faction in Paul Heyman, in him being the mouthpiece for this faction. You don't need Paul Heyman. You don't need him to be your mouthpiece because you have Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is amazing on the mic. And if you want to develop mic skills, you have to get the mic to Bron Breakker. How are you going to want to develop the talent that you have right now in Bron Breakker if you're not going to give him the mic? Have Bron Breakker be the disciple to Seth Rollins. So Seth Rollins can take that mentorship role that he obviously has in this faction, that he obviously has in this company, he obviously has as in a locker room leadership perspective, and actually, hey, critique him in the way that he needs to be critiqued on air, so that it's an obvious big brother relationship. It builds the relationship between Bron Breakker and Seth Rollins. It elevates Bron Breakker and being able to to develop his skills, whether in the ring, which is already amazing in ring skills, or on the mic, Paul Heyman is not necessary. Which leads me to the idea of maybe us seeing a Seth Rollins, Paul Heyman betrayal. Seth Rollins already debunked the fact that you cannot trust Paul Heyman. Not that you really need to debunk that, because he is the biggest snake in the industry. But Paul Heyman already betrayed his best friend, already betrayed the head of the table. He knows he being Seth Rollins is able to see past this. We saw this in yesterday's Raw, where he told Paul Heyman, go to the ring, antagonize Jey Uso, make sure that make sure that it's his idea. It is his idea to go against me. Say this, and this. You're gonna get in his head, so much so that he's gonna pick a fight with me. And it worked. The storyline is that this was not Paul Heyman's idea. This was Seth Rollins' idea. Seth Rollins does not need Paul Heyman. Seth Rollins is using Paul Heyman as a pawn. And if that's how you're going to use him, then that's great. But at a certain point, every pawn has to be sacrificed. I say, do it sooner rather than later, and let him go. You can team him back up with CM Punk if you really want to. It is not necessary. You can team him back up with Roman Reigns, which is not necessary. You can team him back with anybody else, which all that does is just add the Paul Heyman name behind him. But all Paul Heyman is attaching himself to the new unwrapped pretty toy that has not been used. For that reason, it makes Paul Heyman look more of a skee ball. So find the newest talent that put him with Austin Theory. Have him be developed with Paul Heyman. But the over-reliance on Paul Heyman right now within the WWE, it has worked tremendously. At a certain point, it's going to get old. And get rid of him before it does. And bring him back whenever he's missed. In the meantime, find a way to let him go. The other con that I see is in the faction itself. And having a faction, having another faction within the WWE. You had an amazing faction with the New Day. You had an amazing faction with the Judgment Day. Now, if you name this faction the next day, I am going to pull my hair out. All that to say, it's just another faction. And the WWE's reliance on factions right now is unnecessary. It helps build new talent. But it also makes it feel like the only way to get star talent over is by having them be in a heel group and there is little ways for individual talent who hasn't been in a faction as baby faces to get over. Let's look at baby faces right now. We have Jey Uso. Used to be in a faction. We have Cody Rhodes, who is not new talent. We have CM Punk, who is my absolute favorite wrestler. But at least the way that I see it right now is he's being utilized to develop talent, to develop new talent. And he is being protected in the way that he loses. But the more that he loses, whether protected or not, it's going to make it feel less and less plausible for him to actually win a match. We have Sheamus, who just came back. I know I'm missing a bunch, but this is just the top talent that I can think of. I wouldn't even call Sheamus top talent right now. But then let's look at top heel talent, and we'll see that all of them came from factions. Roman Reigns has two factions, two heel factions that he has in the Shield and the Bloodline. Jey Uso, which happens to be a baby face, is coming from the Bloodline. We have the new Judgment Day, and we have the Old Judgment Day. All those are heel groups. We have the new Bloodline, which is all heels. I cannot think of another top tier. Gunther, maybe? Gunther hasn't been in. Oh, Gunther was in a faction too. But now he's individual. I guess my point in saying this is there has to be a way for us to be able to build talent the good old fashioned way, where they just get over themselves without having to be in a group, without having to be in a faction, without having to be a part of something other than themselves. We kind of started seeing that in Austin Theory, but then they pulled the plug on him. We know why. Am I wrong for thinking this way? Am I wrong for pointing out the fact that there's way too many factions in the WWE right now? Am I wrong for pointing out that some of the top tier talent that we have, which might be justification enough, top tier talent that we have right now comes predominantly from factions? Like I said, maybe that might be justification enough in general or in the WWE to create factions. And maybe I am hypocritical because I don't completely dislike the idea of the way they're selling this new faction. I don't completely dislike the idea of having Seth Rollins, although predictable, screw over Roman Reigns and CM Punk again. I guess if you can say Seth Rollins, it was really Paul Heyman. But in an even bigger twist, team up with Bron Breakker. And it's almost predictable that they're going to be getting a new third person. So, yesterday we saw Jey Uso versus Seth Rollins. Then we saw Sami Zayn come to the ring, and he went against Bron Breakker. And then we saw one last person in CM Punk come back after losing and protect both Jey Uso and Sami Zayn. Which leads me to believe there's going to be a 3-man tag team match with Jey Uso, Sami Zayn, and CM Punk versus Seth Rollins, Bron Breakker, and who I think is Karrion Kross, because Karrion Kross has had communications on air with both Jey Uso and Sami Zayn. That is my rationale behind this. With that being said, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Leave all your thoughts in the comments. Let me know how you did here in this video about myself. Peace.